All right, we're here. We're loaded in, ready to get this one underway. Winter in the top right. We had our Vanguard player Taga Bearclaw and playing up against Blinchik, who we've gotten to see for the last couple of matches. We were watching these guys while we were getting ready to play, ready to cast, I guess I should say. I've been playing this. We've been playing the beta all week. I mean, being open, kind of being accessible to everybody. A lot of people have gotten to try Stormgate, but now we're seeing people try to optimize their builds and crush each other as quickly as possible, getting it hardcore now, Winter.
Was this a switch up here? As both players now, I'm noticing, are indeed. Oh, actually. No,
Okay.
no,
We got the graphic updating.
New.
All right.
We got bamboozled.
Okay. I was like, I don't think one of them is Infernal, so I was a little, but we're getting there. We appreciate you guys. Appreciate everybody tuning in, of course, as we're figuring stuff out, and it's been a fun day, some interesting games. But yeah, cautious optimism, Winter, I think, to exercise, as you mentioned, important. Especially we've got, the dog build, right? That very, very, very early scout harass coming in, getting the worker kill, having to force the turret out as fast as possible from his opponent. And that's always, I feel like everybody who's gone on to try it, especially as a casual, you're immediately getting that StarCraft experience from the dog rush. When you get hit with that, you're like, okay, there are some units that can come in and just make your life miserable at the start.
I think right now the horn dog composition is the most common, where you start out with the dogs and you kind of get map control, because the dogs have their early upgrade, which I'm going to call it Super Chompers, but I don't think that's the official name. But it gives them about triple, quadruple damage versus light, which includes the workers. So you can go around and other dogs. So it makes them incredibly effective against each other. And Lancers are just simply too slow. So what happens is the dogs, whoever wins the dog-eat-dog battle, one, they get the chicken, which is always good for them. And also gets map control to go up, usually to Hornets. And then we fight kind of most reminiscent of a Phoenix versus Phoenix sort of Protoss versus Protoss battle in the high tech part of the game.
Yeah, the Hornets fighting each other gets very tricky. I think especially in this early build of the game, some of the attack prioritizing when you have like two groups of air units go at each other, you're not necessarily always going to have it focus on the closest unit to your army. So those shots can get spread out, and that control becomes a very big deal. Almost a cutthroat in that Phoenix versus Phoenix way, like you've described from StarCraft. Usually, if you lose that fight, you don't lose it barely, you lose it big, and it is brutal. And we can see got a lot of dogs coming in here. Got that veterancy, scanning for vision, just want to know what's up. Gonna run straight into the main and deny, or try to deny some of that Therium mining. But as you've already pointed out, Winter, and I think this is the devastating part of it is it's the unit that you start the game with. It's the first unit you can build, and you can pretty quickly get an upgrade that just about triples the damage it does against itself and the workers. So dealing with this harass is it can be a bit tough.
You're saying the dog is the Marine of Stormgate then, in this case.
I mean, to be fair, you never started the game with a Marine in your base either. So we're up in the ante. We're up in the ante a little bit. Here, I feel. As it's just to get the player names. The player names correct, by the way. Azure as the red Vanguard player, and Bach, one of my favorite musicians of all time, as the blue Vanguard player.
Is he the GOAT?
The
top five. Top five.
Well, I think I'll probably be watching the GOAT musician tomorrow on my television. So. And then I'll just stop there before the rage ensues.
Oh, I understood that reference. But now what I understand is the most interesting part of Vanguard, in my opinion, is the sentry post and the multiple garrison options.
I love the sentry post. I love it. You can put the Bob inside of the turret. Like, the turret is basically 5 turrets on its own by default. It does virtually nothing. Like, against most units, it's not really going to be that much of a deterrent. That'll shoo away like 1 or 2 early harass units, maybe. But you can put the Exo in it, and it turns into a super turret. You can put the Bob in it, the worker, and it'll repair anything. I've done a couple of mech strategies, or you can like set it up next to a hangar where you get that repair before they can leave, and it can help with stuff like that. But maybe for this attack, we want to put something else in. Not sure that repairing the dogs is going to be enough to stop this Lancer push. We see the Lancer does go inside, so it turns into a Buzzsaw turret, and it gets a little bit of that bounce attack going on. But still, we know Lancers are very, very tanky.
As he comes up into the main, uses the Bob overcharge. Looks like he does have that quick draw hustle, so he's able to stutter step even more effectively. And the Exos just kind of punch through the Lancers, which actually have a base damage reduction. But the Exos, especially as they get upgraded, even though the Lancers are fast and they attack fast, they're nothing compared to. There's a reason guns were invented here, and it appears the Vanguard teching up into them was a smart move.
The lead, the front lancer can't just soak all the shots for the ones in the back while they charge them down. It's really interesting how the mobility mechanics feel different, because some of these units definitely look a little more like, the Exo. It kind of screams for that inspiration from the Marine, but you can't just stim it whenever you want. It only gets that speed boost during the attack, so it really incentivizes the activeness on the map, taking the fights, doing that kiting micro. Is the only way to get the speed is to take those shots, but. Seeing that, as you pointed out, the Lancers, even with their speed buff, which they only get when they get shot, it's not quite enough to chase them down.
Yeah, the Exo is using the Howl, which gives you vision in just a radius around, including onto the high ground there, where the Luminite pile, I'm still torn on what we're calling it, but the little gold
the
mine
brick?
there.
the Luminite brick?
Nice. It's right next to the edge of the cliff, so
reminds
the
me of a
Exos are able to
limestone
take
deposit.
it out.
Yeah, so.
Maybe limestone when compressed for long enough becomes luminite through nanites, obviously.
You compress carbon enough, it becomes diamonds. I'm willing to believe.
I'll take your word.
I can say if there's anything we can say, it's that it's definitely early enough for that to all be on the table for all we know. So I'm gonna hold on to that. Going to the south side, checking the vision camp, getting that secured. Doesn't want the dogs necessarily up front, the ones with the veterans, he kind of getting picked off a little bit there, but they're not as much of a crucial part of the army anymore, I suppose. Onto a nice 3-base setup, broke up in the trees to take that one, and we're not seeing anything super crazy aside from the fact that Azure definitely feels comfortable being out on the map and having those expansions earlier winter.
Yeah, and getting this third base well shot down loses all that luminite, and right now the Exos are untouchable. This is where the kind of the Hornet dog composition comes in, because the dogs can deal with the Exos, and the Hornets are giving you that backline damage. But right now, the Lancers simply can't tank enough. So Azure with more bases, you saw how many he had, like 8 barracks in the main. It's an Octo-Rex push here out of Azure. And if he ever wants to switch into mech, by the way, he can just salvage some of those racks and maybe take another base. But between the solar habitats, increasing production, and just the sheer amount of Exos on the field, he's got total map control. But he might not be able to close it out or really capitalize on it until he gets things like, I know you like Atlas drops.
Yeah, exactly. The escalation for the tech, I think especially when people talk about like the design philosophy of the game, more health, more closer to a game like Warcraft in that regard. You have a lot more HP. The fight's supposed to be a little bit longer, but you throw a lot of those rules out of the book once you get Atlas out. Looks like Bach is going to try and do something, but that is just way too much from Azure. Takes that, throws one punch, and he taps out. There is the GG. So game 1 win for Azure, and pretty clear cut there, Winter, with some early aggression attempted by Bach. Went for the quick upgrade on the Lancers to try and do a little dive into that main base, but essentially lost I don't know, like 600-700 luminite for not really much gain.